Hey, Float Magic fans, Shawnee coming to you today from the Salt Cave with Cameron. Cameron is a wellness facilitator here at Float Magic. He's been with us about, what did we decide? It was 9?
Almost a year.
Almost a year. When is your year mark?
October, like mid-October.
Yes, so very exciting. So this will probably air about the time that it's your year mark. So how perfect is that?
Perfect.
So yeah, but Cameron's added such a breath of fresh air to our team and just a unique perspective, and is very well loved by our clientele. So we're super happy to have him as part of our team. So we wanted to go ahead and feature him and talk a little bit about what drew him to Float Magic. I know he just had his year anniversary of his first float, so we'll probably talk a little bit about that. And yeah, with whatever you'd like to lead with, Cameron.
Yeah, so I was actually looking for one of those sensory deprivation experiences, like the one we heard about in the news and our culture right now. And I was looking for a center in Boise because I didn't know Float Magic was here in Twin. And I was looking all over Boise, and one of my friends was like, well, there's a place just downtown. So I booked a float downtown, and it's kind of night and day from what I thought it was, the sensory deprivation to flotation therapy, what we call it. And it's been just absolutely game-changing. Like, I was just out there trying to reap this mental benefit, and I didn't realize there was all this benefit for the body and for long-time use of a float tank, the benefit I would see both in my mental health, my physical health. And then becoming a part of the team, getting to explore all the other modalities and utilizing saunas and our Novathor. It's been really amazing to see my mental health grow, my physical health grow, and be a part of the team.
Yeah. So, and that's the beautiful part of employees utilizing the services, is you guys get to illustrate best of all to clientele what consistent use can look like, and what it actually opens up for individuals and our clients that come in and use us often. So what would you say is probably the biggest impact you've had since floating? Has there been any like big ahas or any shifts that you've made in your life?
I don't know. I was like frequently someone affected by SAD. So this last winter, as we went through it, since I started in October, between like the floating and the Novathor, I didn't really feel the seasonal affective disorder as bad. And that was really a breath of fresh air, because the prior year I was just really down and struggling. And it's really nice to be able to recognize those things and then say, hey, like, I need to jump in here. I need to do this, and be able to help my mental health without going to like big pharma and utilizing medication.
Sure. Yeah. And a big part of that too is the sleep portion, right? Like, do you notice any changes to your sleep habits once you started working here?
I do. Yeah. So my first float, I remember just going home and being so tired. I was just ready to go to bed. And since then I've seen that my sleep is a lot better. Like, I can sleep through the night. I fall asleep a lot easier. Same with the Novathor.
Yeah, those are some of the big benefits of that, for sure, is we get a lot of report back on the sleeping for both those modalities. But we've also kind of, so once Cameron came on board, and it's always lovely to have, I love having, a good variety of wellness facilitators. Men are always my favorite because we have a big population of men that come in and use our services. And so it's nice for them to relate to somebody behind the counter. But because of your interest and just your own exploratory curiosities, I went ahead and extended the cacao facilitator training to you. So kind of wanted to talk to you about that as well. Talk how that went for you, what you learned about cacao.
Yeah, cacao is really amazing. I did it first at Hive. So that was like my first introduction to it. And then all of a sudden it was just in the works here. Like, we were talking about it. And so then we took that class. And there was a lot of good information that came from that class. We learned where it comes from, the history behind it, so that we could bring it into the center and do it in a way that was respectful and just broaden our audience.
Yeah, letting people know that it exists. So for those who might not know, cacao is a plant medicine. It's chocolate. and it's not sweetened. There's no cocoa butter added to it.
Yeah,
there's
no way, nothing.
It's just straight unrefined chocolate that's actually gone through a process of being blessed. And the intentions behind it is to keep it pure and in its purest form, so that when people go to use it, it really does the work that it's designed to do. So I took that training with Cameron as well. He was a lot more attentive to it than I was, which I appreciated. I really enjoyed it, and I'd been through other cacao processes before, so it was a nice refresher too for me. But one thing that we learned is, cacao is a heart opener. So it's a great medicine to use to put you back in touch with your intentions and maybe open your heart before another experience. Like taking cacao before a float could be a really beneficial process, or right after a float. It's great in conjunction with other types of ceremonies when you're wanting to open up your heart. Would you say what other things did you learn about cacao through that class?
Yeah, we learned all the really good benefit for lucid dreaming, and Helia, the lady who ran the class, she's in Mexico, and she actually talked about spas that offer cacao after modalities at those spas. And I think that would be a really good thing for us to integrate into our center.
And now that the weather's turning, and I think we had anticipated starting to add cacao into as a menu item people can add on to their services afterwards. And so we sell it here through the center, so it's readily available for the community to have access to it, but it's usually a question of how to use it. So we've also had opportunities where we've used it in big groups of people that have come into the center and done different processes with that. And I know you led that one ceremony. Do you want to speak to what you did for that?
Yeah. So we had the J Foundation here. So we just kind of did a condensed version. It was more introductory than anything, but we just did a little bit of breath work to start. We drank cacao, and I just kind of gave them some of the information that they needed about it and talked about the benefit and how they could integrate it into their everyday life and how we're trying to integrate it here at the center.
Yeah. And that was a beautiful time because there was 3 different stations that they got to go through. Cacao was just one of them. They started in the salt cave here where we're in. They did a breathwork session in here, and then they moved to cacao, and then they ended up with me speaking about sleep and spirituality and just how these modalities can do both, open you up to open your heart, allow for that connection to self, which can be a very spiritual experience, and also just the extreme benefits of sleep that happen. So yeah. I know when we've had our wellness facilitators on before, we've kind of, and I don't know that I prepped you with this, so sorry to put you on the spot, but what has kind of been one of your most favorite experiences, without saying names of clients, or just what's one of your most favorite experiences that you've had while being here at Float Magic?
I really advocate for floating. So sometimes I'll just tunnel vision people into floating. So it's been really nice to kind of learn and talk to people and figure out what they need, as opposed to just throwing them in the tank. But I really believe in floating, and I really love it. And I really like when we have these people who come in, especially because I do eWell on Wednesday mornings, the first responders, the teens. It's really nice to see them come out of this and be so different than when they walked in the doors at first, so reserved. And then now we've seen all of these people coming back consistently in the memberships, and they're really reaping the benefit of what we have to offer here and taking it upon themselves to work on their mental health and their physical health without relying on conventional talk therapy and drugs.
Letting them be open to the idea that there are other ways, and in my opinion, better ways, but I don't want to judge anybody's process of how they get to being well. But yeah, having a non-invasive approach to everything we do here is a pride factor for me.
You definitely have to put in the work, for sure. You have to show up for yourself, but I think we see a lot of that through those programs and what we have to offer here.
Yes. Yeah. And when people really allow themselves to be, to give them the chance to do the work, we've seen a lot of people come through Float Magic. I think we're like at 5,000 people that have been through our doors in the last 2.5 years, which is, that's quite the population. For 10% of our population here in Twin have been through our center. But sometimes it's a one and done for people, and they don't always give themselves that second opportunity, or they float with another. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that I was like, yeah, I tried it, but I couldn't really get out of my head. And I said, well, was it a couples float? Because couples floats can be very different from a single float.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you're consciously aware of that person. So I always recommend that they try to float on their own as well. But it's nice, if they're hesitant about it, then have that person in there.
And it's a totally different experience. I know that I'd never done a couples float before opening the center. And I was amazed at how many people wanted to do a couple float, and especially in February. We're a hot spot for Valentine's Day. Yeah, our Valentine's week is a very busy week. It's a fun week. There's a lot of great energy. We usually try to give away a gift of some sort, like covered strawberries or macaroons, and it's always been fun. But I had never done a couples float until I opened the center, and then when I did one, I was like, oh, it's a neat experience that even though you're sitting there in silence and probably not, you might bump into the person every now and then, but just sitting there it's a neat experience to be with somebody that you love and share that with them. So
yeah, absolutely. That's a good benefit,
Yeah.
It's nice for a date night, and that's what I usually tell people. But when they're really in love with it and they want to come back, I always say, try it for yourself. Be alone. Go in the pot or something.
Yes, absolutely. I do have to take that back. My very first float was with one of my good friends. And because there was only one tank. So we didn't have an option, but it wasn't with someone I was romantically involved with. I guess that's the designation I was trying to make. So just to clarify.
We see a lot of friends float together
yes,
here too.
we do. Yes. And mothers, daughters, we do get some. I've even had ladies call and they wanted 3 of them in the tank at once. I said, well, it's pushing it.
A little tight, yeah.
Can't quite do that. So anyway, well, wonderful. What other things would you like to share with our audience about your experience here at Float Magic?
The culture that's been built around this place. I did a lot of time in hospitality, and I worked for really big corporations that ran these hotels and casinos, and it's just night and day in comparison. We really care about one another, and we really care about one another's mental health. So it's not just this, you're sick and you can't come in. If you're having a hard time, if you just need a break, that option's always available. And slowly, I think we're starting to see this in corporate America, where people are really starting to care about mental health. But it's businesses like this here on the ground, doing it and practicing it, that's really going to set the tone for everyone else.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been a very important. When we started, that was a discussion of our very first training. It's you might be sick, which we don't want you to bring sickness in, of course. We're a very small team, but if you are not in a position to support the people coming in here for their own mental health reprieve, if you're not in a good energy space or a good mental health space, we want you to take that time for yourself, because that's what we're representing. That's what we're representing for our community. And it has made it such a wonderful place to be. I know a lot of employees have told me in the past, I couldn't wait to get back to work. Work is where they enjoy being. And that's because that if you're not in a space to be at work, that you're not expected to force yourself through that. So So you touched on culture, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how the skill sets that I saw in you to pull you onto the team, and those were your hospitality background, which was, of course, very appealing. But it was also the fact that you enjoyed writing and even enjoyed cooking. You know, like those were great skill sets that I thought, oh, this is great, and you've actually helped me with articles that I write, which has been a big benefit. So those skills, how do you feel like you could utilize those skills to bolster what we have here at Float Magic?
Yeah, so in hospitality, people generally do not like to travel. So, they come into hotels and they're just upset. Their flights have been delayed, and you kind of got to create an environment and be understanding and make people feel at home. That's the biggest thing. And to be able to make them feel comfortable and safe. So bring that into the center. We have a lot of hesitant people going into some of these therapies. So being able to kind of fall back on that skill set and be able to just kind of talk them through what to experience, welcome them in.
Yeah.
Be attentive to their needs.
Absolutely. And being present and holding space for them. That's always been a big question that we make sure we ask the individuals coming on board with us is, how comfortable are you if somebody breaks down, or if somebody has, it doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened where people's emotions and feelings really rise to the surface, or we've had some who have panic attacks. Those aren't uncommon. Because their fight or flight has been in constant engaged mode for so long. When they finally get to a space where it's not engaged, the body's like, wait, what's going on? What? I'm here to protect you, and I don't need to protect you against something. What's happened? So those skill sets are very important, but you also have brought another skill set that I think we all appreciate, and that's your music and playlist knowledge.
Yeah, music definitely gets me through the day most days. I'm constantly plugged in. I've got an earbud in my whole shift.
Yeah. Well, and even on Tuesdays, we've kind of elevated our game with Cameron being on board with cleaning days, because he takes care of the playlist on Tuesdays, and we can go from Tool to Jack Johnson.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Yeah. Where did your love of music come from?
I've always really loved music. I was really young, right? Like when the iPod era started. So I think that kind of just created a generation of people who are like constantly plugged into their music, constantly listening to music because it was so readily available. So just ever since then, I've just been plugged in.
Yeah, making playlists. And yeah, we're kind of to the point where we're like, well, we might not need a DJ. We got Cameron. So yeah, that's been an absolute bonus. And speaking of the skill sets you've brought to the table, where do you see Float Magic going in the future?
I would love to see a Float Magic everywhere.
Yeah.
Every city, every place needs one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's awesome. And what role would you hope to play in that equation?
I would like to travel around and help oversee centers and help engage getting them started and getting a team built and promoting the culture that we've adapted here into those other places to keep it consistent and concise throughout the brand.
Yeah, well, because that's what's so important about branding is that consistency that you just pointed out, and that's been the challenge of going, how can we duplicate what we have here? What we have here is pretty special, and the process that it took to get here. It's the people. It's you that makes it special. It's Ashlyn, it's Kayla, it's Jaylene, it's all our hope, our entire team contributes to what has made this, even Angel in the very beginning, like what this is because all of you have brought this passion to it. So how do we duplicate that to make sure that's consistent? Well, we have the team that started the magic, spread the magic.
Yeah, get on the ground and lay out the groundwork.
Absolutely. Share the playlist. And then another question I wanted to ask you is, what lights your soul? What lights you up? What gets you going?
Well, I'll always fall back on cooking. I love to cook. I like to be creative and work with my hands. I like to stay busy. And I think that's such a great thing about here. It's like we're on our feet all the time. We're working, we're being busy, and that's really important to me.
What's your favorite things to cook? Like I'm going to take this opportunity to dig a little bit deeper.
I mean, I roast a chicken quite often and make a pan gravy, but I like to make a variety of things. Roast chicken. I like some French dishes, like beef bourguignon,
Yum.
Mexican food. It's an easy fallback for me.
And you like your wine.
I do like wine.
Yeah, that's something
like
we
Cabernet,
have in common. Yes, we love our wine. In fact, we're going to a dinner tonight, and I'm pulling from my selections, which I'm excited about. Yes, absolutely. So wonderful. And you cook with wine off if you're making beef bourguignon. Yeah. So wonderful. Well, and then lastly, I just wanted to let you offer a challenge to our audience if you have a question for them or something to encourage them about.
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of wrap back to what I said, that working on our mental health, especially as we're going through the sad season. It's so important to be there for yourself and to put in the work and show up wherever you might need it. So if that's coming here to the center, if that's going to the gym, if that's just getting out of bed today, I highly recommend that, you be proactive and you do what's best for you, but make those little strides so that you don't get stuck in that funk.
Yeah. Beautiful. See why I hired him. Well, I so appreciate your light and everything and your energy and everything that you bring here to Float Magic. I think it's really fun for our audience to get to know you a little bit more. And they can come in and get to know you when you work on shift here all the time. Yeah, we have a small crew, so you guys are here often. And I greatly, greatly appreciate that you're part of our fold. So thank you, Cameron.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
Yes. Well, and we appreciate the audience for tuning in. You can follow us. We drop a podcast every 2 weeks, usually right here from our cell cave with a variety of topics, whether it's community information, employee stories, or just valuable information about our services. We'll be bringing a lot of that to you. If there's a topic that you are interested in learning about or that you would like me to discuss, you are more than welcome to drop it in the comments or send us a message. We're always wanting to connect with our audience and understand how to better serve and prepare you for what we have here at the center. So thanks for tuning in today. And remember, it is perfectly okay to stay salty.